Refuge. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangam Saranam Gacchami. I go for refuge in the Buddha. I go for refuge in the Dharma. I go for refuge in the Sangha. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangam Saranam Gacchami. So we will begin with our customary 15 minutes of seated meditation. We'll chant the Gatha on opening the sutras. This Dharma, incomparably profound and minutely subtle, is rarely encountered, even in hundreds of thousands of millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, hold and maintain it. May we completely realize the true mind of all Buddhas. Great. Relax, rest on your laurels if you have any. Tonight we're going to get a Dharma talk from Reverend Dayan Chita, who apparently has been reborn in the technology hell realm. So perhaps he'll accrue enough merit from this Dharma talk to get reborn into the human realm. So.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, apparently all computers in my house tonight are malfunctioning except this one. So a small topic tonight. I think I can cover this in a few minutes. What is Zen enlightenment? So I recently read a brand new book, The Nature and Rationale of Zen Chan Enlightenment, The Mind of a Prenatal Baby by Ming Dong Gu. So this book argues that Zen or Chan isn't a sect within Buddhism, but is instead a distinct religious tradition, mostly Taoist in origin, and beginning not with Bodhidharma, but with Huineng, and mostly influenced by Zhuangzi. So part of the argument contrasts the different goals of meditation. He writes that Indiya dhyana is a quieting exercise aimed at mental relaxation and inner peace, and the Mahayana Buddhist version of dhyana focuses on cultivating prajna through realizing emptiness or shunyata, seeing the interdependent arising of all things. But Chan enlightenment, according to the book, begins with Huineng and is a momentary return to prenatal mind, Taoist in nature, and it originates in Zhuangzi's Zuowang, forgetting while sitting in meditation, aiming at no mind, thought, nothingness, etc. So the book claims that Chan or Zen enlightenment is and is only a temporary return to the preconceptual mental state of a fetus in the womb, hence the various metaphors about seeing one's original face or their original mind. So this difference accounts for the different descriptions of enlightenment in the classic Chan masters and their irreverence regarding Buddha and Buddhist traditions when reading Huineng or Linji. You know, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill the Buddha, that sort of thing. So I wasn't convinced by the book, though. It likes to quote the Jin Jin Ming poem as a Zen, but not Buddhist poem. But one of my favorite Lojong slogans, inspired by that poem's "Not To," is all dichotomies are false dichotomies. So I believe that these supposedly different kinds of enlightenment can be reconciled. So by enlightenment, he means bodhi, and I'm going to translate that as awakening instead, because enlightenment makes it sound like a final state rather than a process. To apply Immanuel Kant's description of the 18th century in a slightly different context, we can live in an age of enlightenment without living in an enlightened age. So having enlightenment experiences isn't necessarily equivalent to being enlightened. So another way to view the prenatal baby view of awakening is to see this not as the end goal, but just as another form of awakening experience, like attaining some specific insight or a stage in the jhanas. That's great and quite helpful along the path, indeed seen as necessary step within Zen practice, but it's still just an experience. But what if we think of awakening as a process leading to being awake, full bodhi, as it were? We see it differently. So the Korean Zen tradition captures this with sudden awakening, gradual cultivation. I interpret that sudden awakening as an awakening experience. And possibly it is like returning to the mind of a prenatal baby. It does mean temporarily breaking through the conceptual dualistic mind, but an awakening experience doesn't mean you're awake. If I slightly open one eye while still shielding it against the bright light, I'm having an awakening experience, but I'm not awake in the Buddhist or the Zen sense. I'm not Bodhi. So instead of Chan or Zen being a completely separate tradition from Buddhism, we can just as easily think of Zen as being the sect within Buddhism that believes sudden awakening experiences are necessary and important steps towards being fully awake, and that everything you need is inside you rather than dependent on externals like recitations or rituals. But there's still all the wisdom and compassion that need to be cultivated before one is fully awake, even in the Zen sense. So having an awakening experience, looking into one's mind and temporarily, at least, becoming like a fetus, doesn't exclude cultivating wisdom and realizing emptiness. The specifically Zen feature of awakening doesn't necessarily exclude other more traditional parts of awakening. So indeed, Huineng talked about experiencing no mind or no thought, but he was also first awakened from hearing the Diamond Sutra, which ends, quote, as a lamp, a cataract, a star in space, an illusion, a dewdrop, a bubble, a dream, a cloud, a flash of lightning. You all created things like this. So one way to read that is of a description of interdependent arising. And experiencing this is experiencing shunyata, or emptiness. So that's not the only false dichotomy. So even if awakening is a return to the prenatal mind, instead of seeing awakening as just the temporary experience of feeling as if one was back in the comfort of the womb, perhaps awakening or being awake is a more permanent experience of being so aligned with the great way, to quote Jin Jin Ming, that you feel the entire world is your womb, or rather that you're as comfortable out in the world as you were in the womb. To one who is fully awake, perhaps distinguishing between world and womb, is a difference that doesn't make a difference. Also, even though the book discusses the potential usefulness of Chan enlightenment for ending people's mental suffering, it doesn't talk about compassion as a Zen goal. And even within Zen, compassion is a necessary component, especially if we think about compassion as the Sanskrit karuna, not as feeling the suffering of others, but in the sense of wishing an end to the suffering of others. So, what is the goal of awakening? It's not just to see your original face before you were born. Why would you care about that? Well, you care about that because awakening, both sudden and gradual, helps end your suffering, your dukkha. The ultimate goal of everything we do is the end of dukkha. That's what the Buddha taught, dukkha, the end of dukkha. And what completely ends our dukkha isn't awakening experiences or brief moments of seeing our original mind as if we were prenatal babies. What ends our dukkha is being fully awake all the time, carrying that wisdom and joy and compassion of that experience out into the world in everything we do. So a lot of people believe Chan Zen is very influenced by Taoist thought. I do. But what those Chan masters didn't do, or didn't exclusively do, is sit all the time engaging in no thought or no mind, like fetuses in the womb. Now, like the Buddha, they shared what they knew and experienced in order to help other people awaken. So all the Zen masters we know of taught others. Indeed, that's why we know of these Zen masters at all. They felt a need to relieve the suffering of others by encouraging them to awaken. So that's Buddhism, especially Mahayana Buddhism. And it seems to me that Zen develops that with perhaps differing emphases in other sects, but is still part of Mahayana Buddhism and not something separate. So these distinctions, as ultimately false as they might be, can help, or at least as I think they are, can help guide our practice. So what does it mean to practice Zen? Is it about employing meditative techniques to look into our own minds and have brief moments of seeing our original mind, perhaps like a fetus? Sure. That's about as distinctively Zen as it gets. But is that all? If that's all Zen is, if awakening is just periodic, momentary returns to the mental state of the womb, that seems like a small accomplishment overall. Being awake, full awakening, Bodhi, being able to say, like the Buddha, I'm awake, means carrying that out into the world, taking that purity of mind, the purity of intention, and living with it all the time, with the goal of helping others achieve the same thing so they too can end their dukkha. Until I can do that, I would never say I'm awake or even I'm enlightened. I mean, I probably wouldn't say it even then. So the book, The Nature and Rationale of Zen Chan Enlightenment, The Mind of a Prenatal Baby, it's a provocative book full of interesting insights, and I highly recommend reading it. But because it creates these false dichotomies of dhyana and shunyata versus a return to the fetal mind, and of womb versus world, and because it neglects the obvious tradition of Zen masters compassionately teaching others so that they may awaken and end their dukkha, I ultimately disagreed with most of it. Nevertheless, because it stimulated my own thinking on the subject so much, I still say to the author, "Thank you for your teaching," and I say thank you for listening.
Thank you for your teaching. Let's go on and do our next 15-minute period of seated meditation. We'll chant the Heart Sutra. Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajna Paramita, perceives all five skandhas are empty and is safe from all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease. Therefore in emptiness, no form, no feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and so forth, until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction, and so forth, until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment, with nothing to attain. The bodhisattva depends on prajna paramita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, one dwells in nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on prajna paramita and attain anuttara samyak sambodhi. Therefore know that prajna paramita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the prajna paramita mantra. Proclaim the mantra which says Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha. We'll do our personal dedications of merit. All sentient beings are one seamless body and pass quickly from birth to death. We remember those who cared for us and are gone, those who are ill, those who are at war, who are hungry, and who are in pain. May they heal and have peace. We especially would like to dedicate our service to all those suffering from the violence of international statism in Russia, Ukraine, Syria, Israel, West Bank, Gaza, Egypt. Mike Gingy Wood. Would you like to add anyone in?
Barry and Quentin.
Any others? Shane McGowan. All beings in 10 directions, subject to the greed, hatred, and delusion of ourselves and others. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Mahasattva Bodhisattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Maha Prajna Paramita. And we'll recite our faith and practice vow. I will never retreat and will be firm in my mind in this correct Dharma. I will escape from the samsaric cycle of birth and death and definitely will see my original face. I will be sure to inherit the life of insight of the Buddha and save all sentient beings. Reverend Hangdahl.
Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. Birds and trees and stars and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We practice and recite this for all beings in grateful thanks to our many guides along the way.
And we'll recite the 4 great Bodhisattva vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to help them all. Delusions are countless. We vow to see through them all. Opportunities to awaken are infinite. We vow to embrace them all. The Buddha way is endless. We vow to embody it. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly by and opportunities to awaken are easily lost. Strive to realize your true nature and do not squander your time by night or day. And I'll extinguish the candles. Thanks for joining us.